What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot. My name is Bladen Kirk, and I'm joined, as always, by the two greatest co-hosts of all time in Matthew Sponhour and Theo Ash. We have a great show for you all today. We're going to start off with, of course, the shocking game of the week. And then, of course, just recap the games. Recap the games from the NFL and talk a little bit of college football because a lot happened in rivalry weekend. Including, of course, the Lincoln Riley news that just happened recently. But you know what? That's enough for me. How are you guys doing?
I'm good, Bladen. How was your Thanksgiving?
Oh, you know what? I think Thanksgiving was awesome. I got to eat tons of great food, even though Matt is going to slander me for not having cranberry sauce.
That's true. That was the one thing your plate was missing. But I said mostly good things about your plate. It looked very good.
Was there no gravy on your mashed potatoes?
I don't do gravy.
That is a bad opinion.
That's the bad take. There you go.
Mashed potatoes is my favorite food, and I think mashed potatoes by themselves hold up. So I'm not going to kill you for that one, but you are wrong.
I don't think mashed potatoes by themselves hold up all that much to me. You need some butter in there or some garlic or some gravy or some cheese.
I make big things of instant mashed potatoes and eat them straight, so...
I do too, that's true. But I'll add like butter and garlic to them.
You got to get they have like the packets that'll be like cheddar flavored, just a little bit something else.
Yeah, that's those are better than the plain ones.
Instant mashed potatoes, mad underrated. But
they're very nice.
I had ham, mac and cheese, mashed potatoes, stuffing, sweet potatoes, and a roll.
With a plate like that, I need an invite next year, big guy.
I describe my Thanksgiving on the Stay Hot account. People are like, this is the most pathetic thing I've ever heard in my life.
You got
Theo, I feel like you saw that pizza and you're like, this is going to make a great TikTok.
It's going to make a great TikTok. When I have the pizza. Well, I ducked into this empty room and there was just like pizza there from some event. And I was like, okay, I brought home a bunch of pizza. And then Thanksgiving, I didn't fly home.
What caused you to duck into this empty room?
Because I needed a pen and I was about to walk to my class. I'm like, I need one. So I ducked into this empty room. So I see all the pizza. I take it. I wasn't originally planning on making it a TikTok, but then I put it in my fridge. And the next day it was Thanksgiving, but it just felt like a normal day for me. So I'm like, I'll have some pizza. And then I realized I'm eating pizza alone on Thanksgiving. This is that I just like scavenged. This is objectively a funny thing, but we've gone on way too long about Thanksgiving and what we ate. Matt, I don't know what your plate was because you were too much of a coward to show it. I'm sure it was great.
It was very good. There was some corn on it, if that appeases the masses.
You didn't do a corn review on Thanksgiving? So you didn't do a corn review on 4th of July. On your birthday, you didn't do a corn review. And then you didn't do a corn review on Thanksgiving.
My birthday is supposed to be my day, and I'm having demands of a corn review. It's not fair. It's my one day of rest.
I guess. But taking a look at the Stay Hot shock, there wasn't a game... I at least think there wasn't a game that was really all that surprising, other than the Bengals putting 41 on the Steelers. And as a Browns fan, we destroyed the Bengals, and the Bengals just destroyed the Steelers, and we lost to the Steelers. I'm very confused.
I like that we look through everything as like the lens of a Browns fan.
They were favored, so them winning this game isn't exactly like the craziest thing to ever happen. But the blowout nature of it did kind of surprise me a little bit. And if I had to choose like the most surprising result of the day, that would be the one, because I just didn't expect it to be a blowout like that. So how did they do it? It was Joe Mixon. It was on the ground. I think he had like 28 carries for 163 yards. And the Steelers defense, man, this revered Steelers defense, once you get past that defensive line, it's not quite as good as maybe it has been in years past. And the linebackers, Devin Bush, has not been the guy that they hoped he would be. The corners aren't exact. There was a deep shot to Higgins, and the corner at the catch point played it worse than I've like ever seen a corner play a deep ball. He just like went flying like all over the place, and Higgins just calmly caught it.
Yeah.
So to allow 41 points, and there was pick sixes and bad interceptions, but I mean, they just ran it right down their throat, which is rare against a Steelers defense like this. And that leaves the Steelers at 5-5-1. And they were kind of a pleasant surprise this year, I thought, with the way they ended last year. I kind of thought they'd be dead in the water.
Yeah.
But they were like, second in the division in the playoff hunt. Now they don't have a winning record anymore. And, they've tied the Lions, lost to the Chargers, gotten blown out by the Bengals. It's just not looking like a great last third of the season here for them.
What's the rest of their schedule look like? I think that's a big question. It is Ravens, Vikings, Titans, Chiefs, Browns, Ravens. That's brutal.
They could lose all of those games.
I think they'll get one. Although actually last year I made a video about the Steelers and then they went winless from there on out. So maybe I won't say that, but
no, say it.
That's a very tough schedule to be staring down.
Matt, make that video again.
Well, and they're coming off. They've looked bad for 3 weeks, and a tie to the Lions is basically a loss. So you can say that they have 3 straight losses.
A tie to the Lions is basically a loss.
They gave up what? They gave up 40 to the Chargers last week, if I'm not wrong.
Right.
So if the defense isn't good, you're kind of looking at maybe a rebuild. Although Tomlin has not let them have a losing season yet, but.
It would be, if they have a winning record over this last set of games, I would be phenomenally impressed with the work that Tomlin did, because that's tough ask.
Ravens. If I had to pick one, I feel like they would get the Titans. I feel like that's the game.
I think they would
the
get
Titans.
The Browns.
The Titans are very, very bad
the Browns
right now, but
the Browns aren't getting swept by the Steelers. Come on.
But they don't play the Titans for 3 more weeks. If the Titans get healthy, that's the big thing for them.
I feel like just about any team in the league could beat the Titans right now. I mean, they go into this game with like Dante Foreman and Jeff Swaim. It's like they're saviors. It's just a losing strategy. Like, what can you do, with that as your offense? And on the defense, they're pretty top heavy with Byard and Jeffrey Simmons. Like, the secondary is not great. So if Byard doesn't have a great game, and he didn't today, like, you're really hoping that like Landry and Simmons like carry you on defense. So the Titans are just not a good team right now. Once they get healthy, they can beat the Steelers, but that remains to be seen. But anyway, shout out the Bengals, shout out their running game, shout out their offensive line, and shout out Joe Burrow. He played efficient today. He had one bad pick, I thought, but the rest of his passes were pretty much all good. He only threw 4 incompletions the whole day. So very well-rounded win for the Bengals today in every aspect. And got back on track.
Rare stay hot Joe Burrow praise.
Absolutely.
Yeah. He did have one bad pick. No, but he played well today. Yeah. Every aspect of the Bengals played well today. And I didn't see...
You don't win 41-10 without just having a complete team effort. You just don't. But before we get into the rest of the games, make sure you all go like, subscribe, leave a review, all the great things you've been doing to help grow this podcast on all platforms. And if you haven't yet, make sure you follow us on TikTok at StayHotPod for some awesome content there as well. And we are still doing the Ed Sheeran hat giveaway. We only have a few hats left, so make sure you go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're going to be picking a few more subscribers to give away an Ed Sheeran hat too.
It's starting to seem like we have an endless supply of these hats.
We don't. I saw the supply, and there are 3
left
max, I would say.
It is dwindling for sure. But another game that I really thought was good, or I guess a game I thought was good, because I guess the Bengals Steelers wasn't really a good game. Not Titans, Colts Buccaneers. Colts Buccaneers might have been the game of the day. And there were a lot of points in this game where I was like, man, the Colts could really just take on anyone, because they're one of the best rushing teams in football. I didn't even know this. As apparently coming into the game, they led the league in forced turnovers defensively. So they're one of the best rushing teams. They have a great offensive line. If Carson Wentz is playing well, which most of the time it seems like he is, he does have his Carson Wentz moments every now and then, but most of the time he seems to be playing pretty well. That's a team to be reckoned with. I mean, they beat the Bills, and they were just able to run all over them.
It's more often than every once in a while with Carson Wentz and the Carson Wentz moments, unfortunately. The way he plays, I mean, you've said this a million times. The way he plays.
He won the...
Yeah, he gives you a chance to win and lose any game to anybody.
Yeah. He's the opposite of a game manager. I've said it for a while. He's like, he controls his own fate more than almost any other quarterback in football, I would say. This was definitely a game I had marked going into it because the Colts, their whole identity is run the football, and the Bucs' whole identity is stop the run. Their front seven allows nothing in the run game, like historically good at that. Mm-hmm. So I was wondering kind of what that would look like, and I anticipated the Colts would try it and have it not work, and the Bucs win the game. Was my guess on how the game went. But really, they kind of abandoned the running game altogether. I mean, they went through it like 40-something times in this game.
Which I thought was super interesting. Because it's not like it wasn't working for the Colts. The Colts were running the football, I mean, about as well as you can expect against the Buccaneers. And it just feels like the game got away from them a little bit, and their game plan got away from them a little bit.
Yeah, because this was a game they should have won. They were in position to win this game.
Yes.
They had the Bucs right where they wanted them, and then there were mistakes. There was Pittman getting mossed by a 5'9" Antoine Winfield. There was a muffed punt. There were fumbles. It was just a game where it was like, holy cow, I cannot believe we let that happen to us.
There were five turnovers by the Colts?
Yeah, they lost
something like that.
Fumbles.
Rough. So it was just a game that they choked. That was a choke. If you fumble 3 times and muff a punt and do all this, you choked. Yeah. And I didn't even think Wentz played that bad. And with Jamel Dean out, who has been fantastic for the Bucs this year, I said last year that he was the best corner on the team. He got hurt early in the game. And moving the ball through the air was kind of working to build that lead. So I don't necessarily think it was a bad strategy to kind of be like, all right, let's try to switch it up and win through the air this week. And it worked for a little bit, but they did seem to kind of lose themselves. And then at the very end of the game, like their last real drive, they went back to the running game and just killed them. Like Jonathan Taylor had like 50 rushing yards in that drive. They just pounded it right at him. They scored a touchdown and then, of course, allowed the touchdown to Leonard Fournette. But it was definitely an interesting kind of chess match, and I thought a really entertaining game from a strategy standpoint.
I don't think you were entirely wrong in your pregame analysis, because I do think the Colts tried to run early. They tried to run it because that is their identity. So I think they tried it early and it didn't work. So they just stopped doing it. Right?
I don't know. There was a point early in the game where there was like a 6-man box and a light box, and they'd had maybe an RPO or a play action or something, but they didn't hand the ball to Taylor. And I feel like in any other scenario facing that box, they would have handed the ball to Taylor.
But a light Tampa box is still, you're still talking about one of the best front fours in football, if not the best. But you're still talking about the best offensive line maybe in football. And if you're going to be a team with a heavy running identity, you need to go challenge any and everybody to stop you. And it's not like the Colts got down big in this game and all of a sudden they had to throw and they were forced. That is true. That is a little
They didn't
unusual.
need to abandon the run the way that they did, or at least not as much as they did.
I think Taylor had 1 carry in the third quarter, I believe, is the stat that I saw.
Something
that's pretty ridiculous for the Colts to have that happen. So I would agree that maybe they should have stuck with it a little bit more.
They definitely should have. I remember I was saying before the game how the Bucs start every road game incredibly slow. Like for whatever reason, they cannot seem to score early on. When they're on the road. And when you're going up against a heavy run team, that should be your goal, is to get up early and force them into throwing. But they just couldn't do that. And the Colts just still went away from the run. And it didn't, I don't know. This game really didn't make a whole lot of sense from that perspective. But at the same time, I think you just definitely have to stick to the run no matter, I don't know. If you're going to be that good, you guys are right. You have to stick to the run.
I'm looking back at the game log, and so they go into halftime up 10. They come out and their drives go fumble, even though they were driving, interception. Then they had a bad drive punt, and then they muffed the punt, and then it was touchdown interception, and that was the entire game. So maybe it was like, it's not even so much that what they were doing wasn't working. What they were doing was working. It's like, okay, they abandoned the run, and they had 24 points at halftime, right? And then they just had a few drives, 2 or 3 drives end in kind of weird ways. And they just made mistakes and shot themselves in the foot. So if they didn't do that, they probably still win this game, even abandoning the run.
Right. I do think that that's kind of the right take, because I think Frank Reich called an amazing game. I think that Frank Reich, or whatever his name is, I think that he called an amazing game. Like the concepts were cooking the Bucs in the first half. Like I really think the pass was the way to go, and it just was unlucky. I thought it was just unlucky. Fumbles, muffs. It was just they choked. It wasn't that their strategy was bad.
Yeah, I was saying it's not unlucky. Choked. You can't turn the ball over 5 times and expect.
And here's the rough part for the Colts. Their path to the playoffs is very tough. They're a good team, but making the wild card is not easy. They have some tough games left on their schedule. The Titans look bad, and maybe they lose and they can somehow win the division, but they don't have the tiebreaker on the Titans. The Titans have a lot of games that are very winnable for them, especially late in the season when maybe they get a little bit healthier. So, I mean, even if the Colts go, they have, 5 games left? Even if they go 4-1, they need the Titans to be really bad. And them being 4-1 is a 10-win team, and in the AFC this year, that doesn't even guarantee them a wild card. So this is a team that I think a lot of people are excited to see in the playoffs, but they really, really, really needed to win this game. It's brutal. They choked this one.
Who do you think? No. So the Titans are 8-4 and the Colts are 6-6. Who do you think has an easier last 5 games? The Colts have at the Texans, Patriots at home, at the Cardinals, Raiders at home, at Jacksonville.
Titans don't have Patriots at home because they just played the Patriots.
I was talking about the Colts.
Oh.
Yeah.
My bad.
Titans have Jaguars at Steelers, 49ers, Dolphins at Texans.
I don't know. It's going to come down to the last couple weeks with them, because the Titans can't beat anyone right now. That's my thing.
Well, they play Jacksonville. Can they beat Jacksonville? I think they could beat Jacksonville.
I don't even know if they can do that. I literally don't. They have no talent on offense right now. 0, none, zilch. I'm dead serious. Like, I do not trust the Titans in their current state to beat anyone. And I don't know exactly when everyone will be back, but I definitely think the Colts can make a run for their division as long as the Titans are in this state. And I don't quite know how long that'll be. Could be 2 weeks, could be 1 week, could be the rest of the season. I don't know. But I'm not ruling anything out in the AFC South right now.
I would just say the Colts either need to win out or win 4 games, which will be very tough, or they need the Titans to lose out, which is also very tough, especially when it's the Titans have the Texans at home they're at the Texans for their last game, and they have the Dolphins at home as their second last game, which are 2 very winnable games. And if they get healthy by then, they should win those, and that can lock the Colts out of the division. It's not over for Indianapolis, but you can't lose close games against tough teams, and they're going to have close games against tough teams.
My thing is, if they can go up against, especially in the AFC, you get to go up against the Chiefs. If you can go up against the Chiefs or the Bills in the playoffs, those are teams you're going to be able to run the ball well against. And that's very true. I think that plays to their favor. Very badly. I think that's going to really play to their favor. That's my only thing with the Colts, is that's why I want to see them.
I think they're going to be one of the best teams. At the end of the year, I think they're going to be one of the 7 best teams in the AFC. But they got off to such a bad start. I'm not sure if they'll be able to prove that. But right now, I would say the Colts do make the playoffs somehow. Because I think they're one of the 7 best teams.
I will say they're a half game back from the wild card. Technically, they're the 11 seed or whatever, but they're a half game back from the wild card with the Chargers, Browns, Raiders all ahead of them.
I think that they're better than all the teams you just listed ahead of them. So I think they'll make the playoffs still. We'll see. Let's move on.
To Theo's favorite game of the week, Rams-Packers.
Yes, this was the best the Packers have looked all year. And I'm telling you, someone's got to win something. I don't know who it's going to be, but someone's got to win something, whether that be a Rodgers MVP.
I was about to say, I know you're talking about Rodgers MVP.
A Matt LaFleur Coach of the Year. Someone has to win something. They have 9 wins right now. I think that's tied for the most in football. And the injuries that have wrecked this team this year, I've talked about it a million times, but Like, to have Jair out, to have Zadarius Smith out, to have Devontae miss some time, Aaron Jones has missed some time. Like, at one point or another, one of the best players at their respective position, Bakhtiari's been out this whole time. Like, they have overcome more star power injury than maybe any team outside of the Titans. And yet still, they are a powerhouse. So someone's got to win something. That's all I want to see. Because Rodgers, in a year where everyone has been a little bit inconsistent at the quarterback position, I look at Aaron Rodgers and I'm like, outside of that first game against the Saints, he's been playing pretty lights out football. And if he was gone and it was Jordan Love the whole time, I don't think that we're maybe like a 3-win team. Because we've got like MVS, Lazard, and all backups on the offensive line playing. So it's either him or LaFleur. So winning, someone's got to win something. That's my take on the Packers.
That's.
I mean, with Rodgers, I think he's kind of the leader for the MVP. I don't mean to just like 100% agree with you, but I 100% agree with you. It's so wide open this year, right? I mean, like nobody has run away with the award. We're at the point where we're trying to push MVP narratives for running backs. So that should tell you a lot right there. But it would have been Kyler. You know, Kyler needs to play.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
I think people want to give it to that, but I think right now, and you saw what happened with the offense when Rodgers was out. Him missing that game, I mean, 3 wins might be generous for a Jordan Love-led Packers. But their offense is just really, really strong, even with the injuries. I agree.
And they've struggled to kind of connect on deep balls for a lot of this season. Rodgers has kind of been slicing and dicing more on the intermediate to short throws more than ever this year. And I think it's a lot of that comes with David Bakhtiari's out. They're thinking, we have this backup offensive line. We can't really hold up for these deep shots. But today it started to come back a little bit. There were multiple great throws down the field, big plays down the field. So this was the best the Packers have looked because of that aspect of their game that has been apparent in this game more than any other. And the defense, outside of some big plays, the defense played well. Amos had that tackle for loss on 4th down where he just shot right up the middle and stopped him. Amos has been playing great. Kenny Clark had just a monster game. Zadarius Smith has been out almost the entire year. And I don't know where we would be if Rashawn Gary wasn't a very good pass rusher in his absence. That pick got a lot of hate when it happened, but he's been phenomenal these last 2 years. And Rasul Douglas, ex-Panther, I know.
Yeah.
He had a pick 6. He's been balling all year. Like, in Jair's absence, Stokes and Rasul Douglas have stopped the bleeding on a secondary that could be a disaster.
Yeah,
if those two guys weren't overperforming. I was about
to say,
yeah,
Stokes being good is so key for this Packers team.
Yes.
They needed that desperately.
I didn't think he was going to be good. I can't lie.
I didn't think so either. And it's not even and not only because I didn't love his college film, it's also because rookie corners are just never that good. And it's like
a tough position.
Well, and it's Stokes. He wasn't even like a great athlete, if I remember, right? Like of all the corners.
No, wrong. He ran like a 4.27.
Oh,
he was
the guy that ran a 4.2. Okay, never mind.
Yes.
There was a corner that was like. I remember there was a corner. I think it might have been another corner out of Georgia that was not a very.
I'm trying to remember who Tyson Campbell was their other guy. I can't quite remember his athletic profile, but Stokes was based almost solely on being just a rocket athlete. Like that's why he got drafted. And I didn't love his technique. That makes it even more.
Then.
I mean, he's taken his lumps as any rookie corner has, but he's been about as good as you can expect. And same with Rasul Douglas. And I don't know where that came from because he wasn't all that great on the Panthers, but he was locked down today.
Yeah, no, he was not.
Absolutely.
There are a couple guys I got to shout out.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you go ahead, bro.
No, Matt, you got it.
A couple guys I got to shout out. First off, you know it. Van Jefferson had a really good game. Dude, he's seriously a very solid receiver, jokes aside. And the other guy I'd like to see who's getting a little bit more work, it takes a long time to come along at tight end or wherever the Packers play him, but DeGuara.
Out of Cincinnati.
Yes, from Cincinnati. Yes. I remember very specifically going to my first couple of Cincinnati games and being like, who is that out there? 83 is just killing them. And it was DeGuara. I know that pick got a lot of hate at the time in 2020, and maybe fairly so because it was sort of a long-term, wasn't a position of need. But I'm excited to watch him develop over the next few years because
you know what role he plays in the offense?
He's kind of like the fullback, sort of like weirdo stuff, right?
He plays the same thing that Cooper Kupp does. He does the same. They want him to be Cooper Kupp. I swear to God, I've been on this Cooper Kupp tangent that Cooper Kupp plays tight end more than like Gesicki and Kyle Pitts does. He lines up in the backfield. He lines up almost exclusively in the slot and off the line as a tight end.
Didn't he throw a pass today?
He threw a pass today. He is someone who I don't have him as a top 10 wide receiver because McVay has put him in these situations where he gets to beat up on linebackers and like nickel corners and like backup safeties. He had 96 yards today, and he had a nice catch in the back of the end zone, but like no one covered him. He just went right through the hole in the zone.
Yeah.
So he is just a tough guy who is willing to block that McVay has schemed up a very good role for. And he plays that role very well. But DeGuara, honestly, is not like he's not nowhere close to as good as Kupp is right now. But DeGuara is LaFleur's version. LaFleur and McVay have kind of come from the same tree. And Shanahan. Shanahan has Juszczyk. McVay has Kupp. And the Packers have DeGuara. And DeGuara has looked okay these past couple weeks. Like, not close to those two guys, but I see the vision.
He's coming along. Yeah, I'm telling you,
he's coming along.
Legit.
I was weary at first, but I'm going to agree with you on Cooper Kupp. And solely because the more I think about it, the more I would rather have Adam Thielen. I think Adam Thielen's a better route runner. I think their hands are comparable. I mean, the only thing you'd be like, oh, well, Kupp's a better blocker, but like,
I agree.
But that's important. I think that's if you're saying, okay, he plays as a tight end and it's just blocking. Well, it's important if he plays like a tight end.
Yes, that's the thing. This was a very interesting comparison with Kupp is Travis Kelce, because he kind of does the same thing. He is just this very good player who gets to feast on guys who are mismatches, whether that be linebackers or it's like a tight end, right? And everyone knows Kelce's like really good. Why are you slandering Kupp? And it's not so much that I'm slandering Kupp, is just that like, okay, are we going to grade him as a tight end then now if like those are the matchups he's getting? I just think that it's a very niche role that he's in. And I feel like there are other guys who could fill it. I think Kupp came in 2017. He was drafted the same year McVay got there. So McVay kind of picked the guy in the draft who could fit this skill set. And Kupp has been like molded to fit this specific role. And he fits it very well. But on other teams, Kupp would not be I'd rather have in Denver, like Cortland Sutton. I'd rather have Cortland Sutton as like a pure wide receiver than Cooper Kupp. But in this specific role, he can obviously be a monster. So it's very weird.
If we've seen multiple players, I mean, Travis Kelce is great. Cooper Kupp is great. They put up great numbers. If we see guys like that succeed in that role, maybe having the value of like a Cooper Kupp who can block, which allows him to play that role, is more valuable than we're giving it credit for.
Right.
He's valuable.
Because if he was not the strong blocker that he is, it wouldn't work the same. But we might be a few more passing attempts from Kupp away from Taysom Hill comps.
If that happens, I will take full credit for starting that narrative, because people know it. I mean, PFF Seth Galina, I think his name is. I'm so bad with names, as you probably have noticed, but Galina. I can't remember if there's an N. Anyway, can't remember his name exactly, but I love the guys. PFF Seth is how I know him on Twitter. And he responded to one of my Kupp things, and he was like, not a top, he's like just a top 20 wide receiver, but a top 3 H-back. And I'm like, I'm glad PFF Seth sees the vision here. Yeah. And I'm going to use that as, he also liked my tweet that said Cooper Kupp should be the first fullback MVP since Jim Brown. So Cooper Kupp, however you feel about Cooper Kupp, just know that guy is not an outside wide receiver. So if you want,
he's a baller. He's a baller. Let's not get it twisted. But if you want a wide receiver, give me Adam Thielen. Give me Robert Woods. Give me Like there's so many guys
you wouldn't want those guys in.
You wouldn't want them in his role. That's true. Well, I think this
is more.
I think Thielen could play.
Problem,
I think Thielen could play that role.
The problem is labels, man.
Yes,
we need less labels.
Yeah,
but here's the thing: if I put Lazard in Kupp's role, could Lazard do a similar thing?
Is Lazard as good of a blocker?
Give Kupp a little bit of credit.
Lazard is probably a better blocker than Cooper Kupp. I'm dead serious.
Start the Allen Lazard better than Cooper Kupp. You don't have the guts.
I don't have the guts. I will
say there's no way you have the guts.
I don't blame you. I don't have the guts.
I will say though, like if Cooper Kupp, I don't know, something about him being drafted the same year McVay handpicked him and like developed this. That's my thing. It's like if some other guy, if Lazard came out in 2017, maybe he did come out in 2017 actually, but like if McVay got hired a year later, he could have found another Cooper Kupp, and I live by that. I'm just saying. I think
what I'm hearing is that LaFleur is going to do the same thing with DeGuara.
Yes,
in like 3 years' time, DeGuara is going to have the 1,200 receiving yard season, and we'll have the best two tight ends in the league. Cincinnati guys.
Wait on DeGuara being Cooper Kupp. Because that's what they want him to be. It's the same role. It's just different body types. It's very interesting. Anyway, Kupp. I've talked enough about Kupp. You can feel about how you want to feel about him. Just know the context of what he is.
There are 20 wide receivers with a higher run blocking PFF grade than Cooper Kupp.
Right. It's like that's my thing. It's like if we're comparing him to Kelsey, and okay, he's in this tight end role. Then like, okay, he's good at blocking for a wide receiver. But if we start to consider like him, it's more of a tight end type of guy. All of a sudden his blocking is not nearly as impressive. Like he's very good at it. But I mean, Woods might be a better blocker than he is. And also
Robert Woods is the third highest run blocking graded receiver by PFF. So
I'll agree with PFF there because that guy gets after it as a blocker. Where is Lazard out of curiosity? Can you see that?
I think Valdez-Scantling's higher than Lazard. Yeah, Lazard's not even like top 50.
All right. Well, they don't know what they're talking about. Maybe he doesn't have enough snaps.
Alan Lazard is ranked 100th in receiver run block.
They don't know what they're talking. PFF is only right when they PFF is only right when they confirm my priors. Lazard gets after it as a run blocker. Ask anyone on the Packers coaching staff how they feel about Lazard's run blocking, and I guarantee you they'll be like, he's elite at it. Anyway, Troy Aikman called Robert Woods a top 3 wide receiver today, and I thought that was interesting. Like, he's good and everything and underrated, but that was, I thought, just a funny comment because he's not top 3.
Well, Matt,
any other games y'all want to get to?
Do you want to talk about the Panthers?
Nope. I'm dead serious. You guys
today. Why not?
They looked bad. They played bad. Their team is bad.
Panthers disaster class. We could talk about the Panthers disaster class, or we could talk about Myles Gaskin master class.
Yes, let's talk about the positives of the Dolphins. I'm down to do that.
Javon Holland. That guy's good. Good player. He was my favorite safety in the draft class. Great ball skills. Great in coverage. His weakness was like his athleticism, but I always thought he was a fine athlete. So I'm glad that he's balling out to prove that I can.
And honestly, at safety, I think you can get away with being not quite as good as an athlete versus like playing corner. I think at corner, I would agree with that. I think at corner, you have to have great hips, great speed, great catch-up speed. But at safety, you can kind of get away with being a little bit slower. I think it's mostly like reaction.
Yeah, you need range. You definitely need range, but corner is probably athleticism is probably the most important thing. Mm-hmm. Athleticism is probably the most important for a corner because
that is the hardest position.
Impossible. It's an impossible job. So. But Javon Holland, shout out him. Shout out Tua for being a semi-decent quarterback these past couple of games and not scoring.
The Panthers have made Taylor Heineke and Tua Tagovailoa look very good. That speaks volumes about their defense and their vaunted cornerback room. They have so many good corners.
Horn.
Do they?
What should have been?
JC Horn. JC Horn is legit good. I'll give him credit. Sadly, he's hurt.
Rest in
I thought the play of the game. A very good celebration by Waddle, because he waddled
it.
like
the penguin.
He was like a penguin, and he's waddling, and his last name is Waddle. That's going to be lost on a lot of people.
I thought
not
it was
many
adorable.
will get that.
You think people are going to get that?
I'm joking.
Okay, there's no way people don't pick up on that. Like,
not many will understand.
Waddle should waddle after every
touchdown
celebration. I thought that was so adorable by him. It was very cute.
How many Waddle touchdown celebrations would it take for people to get tired of it?
That's what I'm thinking.
It's just like Bing Bong. He either has to do it every time or never again. And that's it.
Phoenix ruined that, by the way. Your Suns ruined that. Teams are like 8 for 8 or 9 for 9 on tweeting Bing Bong after they beat the Knicks, and the Suns ruined the streak.
Wow.
Hey, we're above such silly things. We're above silly trivial things.
You guys are too serious. You're focused on winning.
This is why we've won 16 straight games. Is we don't get distracted by the bullshit. We're too focused on winning to poke silly fun and games. Anyway, I love the Waddle celebration. I think he should do it every time. I'll never get sick of it.
You know, I'm watching the Browns and Ravens right now, and I'm very nervous. So, like, if I'm not super, it is 10-13, 4th and 8 Ravens. They just called
2
a timeout.
minutes to go.
Baker Mayfield game-winning drive. What could possibly?
I tweeted out what's going to happen with Baker after this season while he was struggling. If he leads a game-winning drive, the replies to that tweet are going to be
It is now 16-10. Baker game-winning drive. It's happening. It's happening.
Baker could have the greatest drive ever, and I still think that guy is a bad quarterback. Just straight up bad. Not worth $40 million. Overrated.
I remember last year, Baker led a game-winning drive against the Ravens, and we still lost.
That did happen. They just can't get the Ravens. It's killing them. I've said this a million times.
It is.
I'll
say it again.
What was the stat that showed Harbaugh is 20-4 against the Browns or something? 22-4.
There's a lot of like coaches and players and people who have these like unbelievably good records against the Browns all time.
Yeah, that's kind of funny. It's almost like they're the worst franchise in pro sports.
It's like they lose a lot of games.
You know what?
Very sad.
Unfair.
You know what the most disappointing part of this season was for me? One of the most, maybe not the most. The Ravens running backs getting hurt sucks so bad.
J.K. Dobbins was supposed to eat this year.
He was going to do so good. That was our guy. He was the most stay hot guy that could have possibly been. He was an Ohio State guy. He had the contact balance. He breaks tackles.
He was a film guy for me. I didn't even think about the Ohio State. Because I literally watched this video today. I went back through my old videos and I was looking for and I found like the old all-pro guys. I'm like, these guys are future all-pros. And I was like, who did I say for that? And I'm like, oh yeah, I said J.K. Dobbins. And he better come back the same guy he was, because he's got that kind of talent.
Dude, I mean, if we were talking about running back MVP narratives, we'd be talking about J.K. Dobbins right now if he was healthy, because they'd give him the ball a ton. Oh man, it's so disappointing. Hopefully he comes back and is the same guy, because he is just so fun to watch. And that's the other part. Gus Edwards also got hurt, who's a very good back. And now they're out here with they had Le'Veon Bell, and they've got Devontae Freeman and
Tyson Williams.
Murray.
That was a fun couple weeks.
Yeah, it's a shame. All the fun. How has Callaway been?
Callaway's been okay.
He's not a number one, you know.
He's just not a number one, and he's been okay. He's been like a pleasant surprise for an undrafted free agent, but now you're asking him to be a number one guy. Like, I feel like he'd be better if Michael Thomas was still there, but he hasn't been like. I feel like if you ask a Saints fan, they'll be like, "Yeah, Callaway's been decent, but he hasn't been great by any means."
Come on, Browns. Come on, Baker.
One more game while Bladen is distracted.
Oh my gosh.
What happened?
Good or bad?
Okay, Baker almost got sacked, and then he just threw
That's
it.
never good for Baker. Whenever Baker almost gets sacked, you know something absolutely idiotic is about to follow.
It wasn't intercepted, though. It was just incomplete. So we're good.
It was almost intercepted. Yeah, Baker.
No.
One more game while Bladen is...
He just threw it away.
Okay.
We're good.
Win. All right, that's good. One more game while Bladen is distracted here. The 49ers have quietly gone on a little winning streak here, and they crushed the Rams, and they just beat the hot Vikings. So I think that this is a team I would not want to play as a Packers fan. If we face them in the playoffs, I think we could very easily lose that game. They scare me a little bit. They're on like these 10-minute drives all the time and just suck the life out of the game, and they're just a soul-killing team to play. And they almost beat us earlier in this year. So they're freaky.
You know who finally is coming around a little bit, who everyone was so high on? Ayuk finally getting some targets after.
He was always good. He was literally he could have been doing this the whole damn year for them, but for some reason, I guess he wasn't good, even though he was good last year. I don't know.
Man, the Vikings are such a talent. Not to change the subject entirely. Why are the Vikings not better?
I don't know. Kirk is having
right?
The season of a lifetime. Jefferson and Thielen have both been healthy. Their pass blocking is really quite bad. And they've been up 7 in every single game they've played, I think. Like, in almost every game, they have had, like, touchdown leads. It's just they cannot play a normal game to save their life. They're a little bit archaic offensively. They don't really go for the throat the way they should. I think that's the main thing.
They have.
All right, so
I think they have to... Did Baker throw a pick?
No, he just turned it over on downs.
Oh, well, that's
literally typical. 4 and out, just like the most.
Just cannot even.
It's like the most
Lamar
boring,
has 4 interceptions.
Way to lose a game.
They can't get those guys. They can't beat them. It's just killer. They beat the Steelers last year. They got over that hump. But yeah, if they.
How about this for an idea? I kind of like division rivals playing each other twice in a row. I think every year there should be a divisional, like a big rivalry that does this, where it's like
kind of cool.
A double header. It is kind of cool. Like you have to like regroup and then go right at them again. And it's like, how do your strategies change? Like get a bye week, like, cause the Ravens don't play the Browns back to back, cause they don't have a bye week like the Browns do, but the Browns play the Ravens back to back. I think that'd be kind of cool. Like every week, but then what's nice about this is like the Browns and Ravens are both kind of contenders this year. Yeah. It would suck to pick like the Bears and Vikings and have it be like a bad team twice in a row that no one would care.
Back to back, yeah.
But it's very interesting how the Browns will approach like playing the same opponent 2 weeks in a row.
Maybe I'll label it like this. This is the most important game in the Baker Mayfield era. This is because they'll be going into that game saying, if we lose this game, we have a losing record in a tough AFC and a tough division. We can't win I guess they could, but it would be impossible to win the division at that point. And they cannot get past the Ravens. If they can't do it next time after a bye week at home, they can't do it. And they're going to have to make big changes, and it's probably going to be Baker.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's the most important game of his career.
Speaking of rivalries, I think that's a transition into college.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Good.
Speaking of big rivalries, it was a rivalry week, and a lot happened. So Matt has a lot to say. You have the floor. I've talked too much, as always.
Ohio State's defense is not very good, and as my dad put it, not to steal his college football takes, but he's got good college football takes, so I got to steal him. Ohio State's defense was never fixed. They just tricked everybody into thinking it was, because it was real. That's what lost them the Oregon game.
He got that Russell Westbrook, Patrick Beverly. They tricked y'all, man. They were running around.
They did. They absolutely did. Ohio State's defense is terrible. I saw some people blaming C.J. Stroud for the loss. He played a pretty good game. He had a couple bad throws, but he played a pretty good game. In fact, he had a really nice play, because the big thing with him is that he can't handle pressure. Now, that's what it's been so far. And yeah, he got sacked some, although it was not his fault a lot of the time. There's one play where he got heavy pressure on him and he rolled out and made a really good throw, Patrick Mahomes-esque or whatever, creating. And it was a drop. It was a real shame, because it was one of his best plays of the game. But it was not on Stroud. Ohio State just blew it. They do not have the defensive talent right now. And Michigan, there was a point in the game where Michigan just said, we're going to run straight at you every play. Stop it. And Ohio State could not do it. They don't have the linebackers. Their front four is not as strong as it's been in past years. Zach Harrison did not develop the way that he should have. And I have never seen cornerbacks struggle more to get off their blocks. If a wide receiver blocked them, they're done. They're out of the play every time. Yeah. It was insane.
Yeah, the Michigan set the tone in the snow. It was very Big Ten. Like you gotta put a hat on a hat and fit the run. And Ohio State wants to be all Hollywood. They want to be all Big 12 over here. And Michigan went all Big Ten. Hassan Haskins just decided to put his shoulder, get his pad level low and rush for 1 billion yards and beat them. It was very Big Ten. Very, very Big Ten.
I tweeted that Michigan felt like Michigan's such a Big Ten team. Like they just came out, they just ran the ball. Yeah. They would go they had 2 quarterbacks in. It was like they would bring in a different quarterback when they wanted to run with him, when they wanted to do like option stuff. And I'm like, that's such like a Wisconsin, Northwestern thing to do. But it really just felt like Ohio State didn't have to go out there and play Big Ten football. They have the best receiving trio in football, in college football, by a wide margin. By a wide margin. And they just refused to throw it deep. And whenever they did throw it deep, because they did a few times, it worked. It just kept working. And they just kept like not going back to it. They wanted so badly to play the same way that Michigan did. They wanted so badly to just run the football, and they would go 3 and out every single time they tried to do that. It was embarrassing.
Well, I know momentum is, not real, but if there was an argument for momentum being real, what killed Ohio State was coming, and Ryan Day said this in his press conference, and I 100% agree. Coming out of the half, they're down 1, and they shouldn't have been because they should have scored 2 touchdowns instead of 2 field goals, but they screwed up. And Ryan Day is like, I'm going to run the ball, and they ran the ball 3 times and had a 3 and out. Out of the halftime, that killed them, that demoralized them. And the defense gave up towards the end, 100%. In the last possession, go watch it. In the last touchdown on that play, Ohio State's linebackers did not try. And they were down 1 score. And I know it was bad. And I know it was 1st and goal from the 3. But they're not even trying to get a fall. And they straight up gave up. Go watch the play.
I'm pretty sure in Day's press conference, they said that they let them score so that they could get the ball back.
That makes no sense to me. I guess.
I could be wrong, but I thought I remember him saying that. But Michigan, to an extent,
Ohio State lost the game. Michigan beat them. Yes. I think a lot of it was at Michigan. The weather conditions were perfect. Ohio State didn't convert when they needed to convert. Ohio State's in a rebuilding year. So I think things just lined up for them a little bit. But I thought at the end of the game, or in the press conference, Harbaugh had that stupid third base quote. Dumb. Very stupid. Stupid move. You don't never play Ohio State again, dude. This is your first good win of your coaching career. They have never beaten anybody.
I think we should get go ahead.
Harbaugh has this. He cannot not talk. This is like Dabo Sweeney last year. I'm saying this as an Ohio State fan, so I'm very much, I guess I got to rep Cincy as the one since I go there, but I was raised an Ohio State fan. Dabo Sweeney ranked Ohio State 11 or whatever because they can't. Stupid. You're giving them bulletin board material. Ohio State's got some big changes to make, but best believe they're thinking about that for the next 365 days, and it's going to be at Ohio State. I don't think that was a good play by Harbaugh.
I think that we deserve a trophy or a medal for. I'm sure a lot of podcasts talk about Ohio State versus Michigan this week, but I think we talked the longest without mentioning the name Aiden Hutchinson. That guy.
Oh yeah.
Literally ran over the left tackle. Just took him and literally ran him. It was like a Madden X Factor when they just blow them
totally
over,
unblockable.
And that would never happen. That would never happen in a real game, and it just happened in a real game.
Absolutely.
He pressured Stroud, and it's why I don't think Stroud played that bad. It's because Aiden Hutchinson was just blowing up their play every time. And I thought Stroud, considering the circumstances, did a pretty good job. But I mean, Hutchinson talking about the NFL draft and some of the prospects in this game, I think the main ones are Olave, Garrett Wilson, and Hutchinson. And I think especially Wilson and Hutchinson, and especially Hutchinson, who will probably be a top 5 overall selection. I mean, if Kwity Paye was, I can't remember exactly where he went. I think he went like top 20. Maybe he's 21 or 22. I mean, Hutchinson is just, he's like a Bosa brother. I mean, that's the name that comes to mind. Just Big Ten white defensive end. That might be why, but he really just looks like that type of dude. They were both top 5 overall picks. Hutchinson's kind of the same way. Like, he's just unbelievable.
Oh, yeah. No, Michigan deserves their credit. And Ryan Day had some bad play calling, but Michigan 100% deserves their credit. They went out and they had the right team built to beat Ohio State. That's what because you looked at like Michigan State. Well, okay, well, how did Michigan lose to Michigan State? Ohio State beat them by a trillion points, game over at halftime, and then Ohio State go lose to Michigan. Well, part of it's home field advantage. And it's so important in college football. But a lot of it is Michigan just had the right team. They had the right game plan. And they just played some bully ball. And Ohio State, God, their linebackers are rough. And they're not that big up front. They're not as good as they usually are up front. And Michigan's offensive line is very, very strong.
Yes.
But there's a lot of Ohio State is just like the Browns. Nice.
Shout out Ohio State linebackers from last year. Baron Browning, he's good for the Broncos. Shout out him. I liked him during the draft. He is good for the Broncos now. I just want to say that for Broncos fans listening out there, your guy Baron Browning is good from Ohio State last year. They need him back. Anyway, the biggest news in college football is not maybe even this game right now or the college football playoff. It's Lincoln Riley being the new coach of USC. And I didn't see that coming at all. It happened so fast.
I like it. It's a good move. Oklahoma, he's done what he can do at Oklahoma. But sadly, they are cursed being a Big 12 team.
And well, not for much longer.
Not for much longer. But Oklahoma in the SEC is going to have a problem. I think.
Yes, a big problem.
I get why they want to do it. I don't get why they want to do it. Right? I mean, it's going to be much tougher.
How many local recruits are in Oklahoma? So you're going to have to go into the SEC and recruit SEC athletes all from out of state. Like, it just doesn't seem like a good idea.
And like someone told me on the green room, I didn't realize this, but somebody told me on the green room that I was in. They're like, well, you think Caleb Williams transfer? I'm like, oh, what are you talking about? Like, well, he's probably going to transfer to USC. I'm like, oh, yeah. The Oklahoma guys might just follow Lincoln Riley. And all of a sudden, you're without your best players and your best coach going into the SEC, trying to recruit guys from. That's not going to end well. That does not sound good.
Imagine this. You go into recruiting and you have to pitch for someone to come to Oklahoma and you're like, yeah, I know our coach just left and we lost our starting quarterback and all of our other best players. But could you please pick us over like Alabama? Like you're getting laughed at in your face. Like there's no way.
It's going to be very, very. I guess they're hoping to get a lot of Texas guys to come to Oklahoma and whatnot. But I like the move a lot for Lincoln Riley. I think USC is in a position to recruit as good as anybody else, especially with all the new NIL stuff. And he's in a conference that is very, very winnable. The Pac-12 has been weak for a long time. And the playoff committee desperately wants to put in a Pac-12 team because they haven't been in for so long. So they'd 100% be in a position to recruit with the best of them. It's not a tough, it's as tough as other conferences. So, and if he can get, Caleb Williams to come with him and some of his guys to come with him, he'll be in a very good position.
Lincoln Riley at USC is putting the fox in the hen house because over here in the Pac-12, I'm an Arizona State guy, and Arizona State almost like won the Pac-12 South, and we're not even good. So like,
we're
chilling over here in the Pac-12 with like a bunch of mid like teams. And it's like, okay, I'm Arizona State, and I'm like, okay, we can still win our conference and play in the championship game. No problem, because everything is bad. Now there's like a real legit like guy, like, oh my God, you're going to build this like, I can tell you looking at the other schools here, Arizona State can beat any of them, and we're not even that good. So like now you have let this dude in, and every single year he's been at Oklahoma, they have been top 10. he's like 55-10 in his career or something like that. Like, just creates a Heisman candidate quarterback every single year.
Yeah.
He's ridiculous. And in the SEC, I think that one thing that played into him, because he left Oklahoma, who's going to the SEC, and it seems like he turned down the LSU job, which I feel like many viewed as a better job even than USC. So I think he's kind of ducking, like maybe he thinks his game, like spread offense and all that, would work a little bit better in the Pac-12 than it would the SEC, and I don't blame him. So I feel like that had a lot to do with it, where he just didn't want to bring his style to the SEC because it's not quite SEC football. So right. I feel like, you're getting a pay grade up, you're getting a pay raise, you get to be the fox in the hen house and eat all the chickens, and
you got to be better than 3-loss Utah.
You got to be better than 3-loss Utah. You got to be better than Arizona State, who commits 10 penalties a game. It's going to be a slaughter for. I mean,
this has to feel a little bit like
he's going to easily win it. I think
this has to feel a little bit like when Cincy got Fickle, right?
Maybe not quite the same.
Maybe not quite, but a little bit.
Because Cincinnati does not recruit quite like USC.
Not quite.
But it does. It's a very good coaching get. And they should be very excited. And especially if they expand the playoffs and make conference championships guaranteed to get you into the playoffs. Oh, beautiful. So this could be the start of the next USC dynasty, which would be good for college football, I think. I think it would be a good thing to have another team.
It would be bad for the Arizona State Sun Devils, but I would agree that it would be good for
Theo Ash. NFL is in shambles right now.
I am in shambles.
Arizona State is going to be
Arizona
seen as
State
fraudulent.
is not going to be. That's not good, but that's
fraudulent
okay.
State.
That's okay.
Fraudulent State Sun Devils.
We got to talk a little bit about the playoffs.
Yeah.
Because the Ohio State loss obviously affects them a lot, and we're coming down to it in championship weekend. There's a lot of weird things that could happen. Right now, I feel like the likely 4 is Alabama, Michigan, Cincinnati, Oklahoma State. That would be my guess.
No, Georgia?
Now. Oh, Georgia. I didn't mean Alabama. I meant Georgia.
Yes. Okay. That's what I figured.
And if everything goes as according to plan and as the favorites are, Georgia beats Alabama, and Alabama has not looked strong enough to get in as a 2-loss team, even in a wacky year, you'd hope, because they do not. If they lose to Georgia, they don't deserve it by any score. Cincinnati should beat Houston, but there's no guarantee. You would expect Michigan to beat Iowa, but that's no guarantee. And then you would expect Oklahoma State to beat Baylor, but that is certain. That's a very tough game. They're not going to be heavy favorites in that at all.
What about Notre Dame?
I was about to say
Notre Dame is sitting right there. They're thinking about it.
Who are they? Do they have any more games?
No, they don't play in a conference.
They don't play a conference. Yeah, that's what I figured.
And which is super, super, super lame, and there's no reason for it. But
yes. That's the most Mickey Mouse program of all time. I hate Notre Dame football. I hate it.
Dame. A lot of Notre Dame fans ask me, or you say like Notre Dame is frauds. It's like we've won 10 games, so many years. The reason why Notre Dame is seen as frauds is because they don't play in a conference, so they can't win conference championships. And since the BCS started, and you've had BCS and New Year's Six Bowl, like those high level bowls, basically,
right.
34 or 37 teams have won one. They've won a BCS bowl, a national championship, or a New Year's Six Bowl. Notre Dame is not one of those teams, and that is since 1998.
They're not good, and if they make the playoffs, they're just not. They're just a sacrificial lamb. It's like if you need a Notre Dame in the playoffs every year, why have the playoff? Like they have made the playoffs way too many times. I don't know exactly the number, but it's at least twice. That's too many times.
This is a wonderful point for my anti-playoffs narrative. This is a wonderful argument. There aren't even 4 teams good enough for people to feel like they need to play in the playoffs. We're going to go to 12? You're going to have BYU playing Georgia. It's going to be nuts. And this is the thing. I have no problem if you want expanded playoffs, but you can't complain about the teams who get in the 4 team not being good enough and then tell me you want expanded playoffs. It's like, okay, If you have a problem with the team's not being good enough, fair enough. But if you expand to even 8, that means 2-loss Ohio State still gets in. That means 2-loss Bama still gets in if they lose to Georgia. That means Notre Dame gets in. You can't have it both ways.
Right.
Looking at a little bit from the Cincinnati perspective, because I have to give it. I know.
You do.
I know. Too bad.
You do.
Go for it.
The goal for Cincinnati is not to make the playoffs. It's to not have to play Georgia, because they can beat anybody not named Georgia. I don't think they can beat Georgia. They don't have the size for it. They don't have the guys for it on the line. But what I'm worried about is that if we lose, obviously if we lose to Houston, we're not in. If we barely beat Houston and Oklahoma State were to blow out Baylor, they would put Oklahoma State in at 3 to play Michigan, and they'd put us at 4. And I'm scared that they're going to they don't want to put in group of 5 teams. So if they put us up against Georgia, we're going to lose big, and they'll say, see, group of 5 teams can't compete, even though everyone would get blown out by Georgia.
Yeah.
It's all a conspiracy.
I don't think that's an unreasonable take at all.
I don't think it's an unreasonable take either. I don't think it's an unreasonable take either.
Here's the thing, right? If you're Cincinnati, like let's say you are like Desmond Ridder, do you want to play Georgia?
Yes, you do.
Desmond Ridder is not going to sit out if we play Georgia. No, he would not do that to us.
That's not the question I'm asking. I'm asking,
he wouldn't do that to me.
Would you rather play like Michigan or Georgia?
Every athlete would rather take on the challenge. Although maybe they'd rather play Michigan at first. They might want to. Wait. They might rather want to play Michigan at first and then play Georgia in the national championship. They would probably rather get that draw.
Okay.
The goal for Cincinnati is to prove that group of 5 teams are legit and win a playoff game. They don't have to win the national title, but they got to win a playoff game. No close loss, moral victory bullshit. Fuck that. If they can beat, I'm not saying they will, but they can beat anybody not named Georgia. I know, I'm not saying they'd beat Michigan, but I know for a fact their defense would play better than...
They could beat Georgia.
No. I don't... It would just be... The problem is their offensive line is not that good, and Georgia's defensive line is just too much.
Jordan Davis is 6'4" and like 350 pounds and runs like a 4.8. Like, you've got to be an athlete to like contain that Georgia defense. They're just different.
And I guess you could say like, well, you could say the same thing about Michigan. They have great pass rushers, but that's different. It's not the same. It's the talent gap, the star rating gap between Cincinnati offensive line and Georgia. Like, those guys are just too big. We couldn't run at all. It's one thing if it's pass rush and Ritter's good at handling pressure and whatnot. And I can just see the path to beating a team like Michigan way more. I'm going to the Houston game. This is the one good thing about being in a group of 5 conference. They don't rent out stadiums. The championship game is a home game. It's at Nippert. Which is so sick. I'm so.
I might disagree with you though. Like, Aiden Hutchinson is probably gonna tear you guys up. I think that Michigan offensive line,
Aiden Hutchinson will,
because their other edge whose name I can't even. Again, bad with names.
He's good too.
But the other edge also had like a 10-sack season. So like Michigan, if offensive line's the problem, Michigan is probably also beating Cincinnati.
Well, it's a little bit different because that would be a very tough game. Now they'd get theirs on their pass rush, but Cincinnati does do a decent job of handling that sometimes. And it's not like we're a running team trying to run at a guy who weighs 50 pounds more than, like, it's a little bit different. I know it sounds stupid, but the key to winning that game would be shutting them down on offense. And where they ran all over Ohio State, they could not do that against Cincinnati. Cincinnati has better linebackers than Ohio State, considerably. I would say of the 11 starters on Cincinnati's defense, 9 of them would start on Ohio State. And that's not an exaggeration at all, I promise you.
Yeah,
there was times where
multiple projected first-round picks on that Cincy defense.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, there were times where Michigan threw at Burke, Ohio State's corner, and they picked on him. That's not happening with Gardner. They're going to need to be much better. There's times where, like we said earlier about how the wide receivers just crushed the defensive backs for Ohio State on blocks, and that's not going to happen with Gardner and Kobe Bryant. Those guys are very, very tough in run support too. You've got Pace, who is been fantastic at linebacker. Beavers has been a lot better. So even if they get that push on that offensive line, which they probably will, you've got other guys who can slow it down. You can really, really limit the passing attack. I could see if Cincinnati's problem is that they make a lot of mistakes on offense. So you would need to get lucky and get a game where they don't do that so much. And it would be tough, and they would be underdogs, and rightfully so. But it's a win. The path to winning a low-scoring game is there where it's not quite there for Georgia. So that my hope is that we blow out Houston, we prove ourselves enough to be the 3 seed, and we get to play a team that we can reasonably compete against.
Yes. And I would also disagree with you that a close loss to Michigan would not be the worst thing in the world for the reputation of Power 5 programs.
I don't want that.
But you don't want that, obviously, but I don't think it would be the worst thing.
Because it would be another year. It would be another year where it's like, oh, we lost. We could have beaten Georgia last year. We could have won that game. They were one bad, fickle play call away from winning that game. He decided
and your left tackle getting hurt and Azeez Ojulari just murdering him, the backup, for the rest of the game.
Yeah. So it's just, or I mean, the dream scenario would be Iowa beats Michigan, and then we get to play like Oklahoma State, who we could very well beat. Or if we want to talk about like, well, I get last thing, I swear. But if we want to talk about the like the nightmare scenario that I'm always cheering for, it would be Iowa somehow beats Michigan, Baylor beats Oklahoma State, Oregon wins. They'd have no idea what to do.
Assume they put in Notre Dame. They'd put in like Notre Dame and probably Ohio State. They'd probably just be like,
see, but do you think they'd put in, let's say Michigan goes and gets, let's say they lose by 2 touchdowns to Iowa. I'm not saying that's going to happen. Yeah. We're just totally hypothetical. You think they'd put in Ohio State over Michigan? 2-loss Michigan who played in the conference championship and beat Ohio State?
Yeah, I do. I do think they'd do that. I think that it would be.
Think they would.
I think it would, and also I think you're discounting the likelihood that 100% Alabama
understand.
Gets in if Georgia beats Alabama. If Alabama plays them close, I really think Alabama, even with a close loss, might get in.
Bama has played too many bad games to do. It's not like they've been dominant outside of one stupid loss and then they go lose to Georgia.
They should have lost to Auburn.
Like Bama. I made a promise to somebody. Auburn's punter for Heisman. Auburn's punter balled out in that Auburn-Alabama game, dude.
He did.
It's a shame. See, they squeaked by Auburn. They squeaked by LSU.
Auburn gave them the game. Auburn gave them the game on a silver platter. That entire fourth quarter, it just looked like Auburn wanted to lose. It was awful.
But if Bama's defense looks like that, or Bama's offense looked like that against Auburn, what are they going to look like against Georgia? Georgia could very easily run away with that game. So
who knows? I just think that ratings for a Bama game kind of go crazy though. So I feel like they might be like, I mean, what Alabama lost to an unranked team and they were still ranked number 2. So like,
here's the tricky part. We don't know the rankings yet, but as of now, Alabama's 3. And I would figure that Michigan jumps them and goes to 2. They'd switch Ohio State and Michigan spots. So what would have to happen then, because you can't have Georgia-Bama rematch. That's not good. That's bogus.
Yeah.
So you would have to say losing to Georgia, you lose and you drop 0 spots. And that would be an insane precedent to set. That would be nuts to do.
They kind of said it earlier in the season.
They did kind of, but like they're not going to.
But getting away with it twice would be kind of difficult. That would be the time to pay the price. So
if they do that and make Cincinnati play Georgia, I'll be upset.
We'll push.
You won't be upset when Cincinnati
narratives
when Cincinnati comes out and just wants it more, and they just win. Sometimes,
we got to get past Houston first. That's what I'll say about Cincinnati.
All right,
Houston's a very good team.
Houston could easily win that game too. That could just
past Houston,
any team. Cincinnati,
and then we'll talk about what you have to do to beat Georgia or whoever you end up playing. But I think that wraps things up for us. You know, we could go on and on about Cincy, and we could go on and on about me crying about the Cleveland Browns.
We could go on and on about Jack Jones, Arizona State cornerback who had a pick, a forced fumble, and like several solo tackles in the last game. But he's 5'9" and like 24 years old, so he's not going to get picked.
That is that's tough. 5'9", 24.
It is.
But as always, tons of content coming your way on all platforms. We'll be back, of course, Friday to preview Week 13 of the NFL. And of course, actually, I think, Friday we'll talk about the NBA as well. We didn't get to that today, but Friday we're going to talk about the NBA as well. We can talk about how good the Kings are because they beat the Lakers. How
Anthony Davis is the worst player in the league.
Anthony Davis, bro, I can't with that guy. But don't miss out.
You said like we can't talk about the Lakers anymore, but it's so hard not to.
It really is. It's so hard. But don't miss out on all the great content coming your way on all platforms, as always. From Corn Boy, Gambling Addiction Boy, and Lemon Boy, here are the Stay Hot shout-outs, and we'll catch you on the flippity flop.
I'm Jake, I'm a Broncos fan, and our defense is playing elite right now. I mean, we knew we were elite, but it's been rough lately against the Eagles and stuff, but, like, what a great week this week. We were, like, on every single pass. Go watch the replay. Let's go, baby.
Well, another week as a Panthers fan, and Matt Rule will continue to have a job probably halfway till next season, as he's undeserving of a job as a head coach with our completely undisciplined team. I think number one penalized team in the league. We suck.
Hi, this is Reese. I'm from Victoria, British Columbia, Canada, and I'd just like to say I don't want to hear any of you making any excuses for Cam Newton on the podcast. This man has played absolutely horrible.